Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 6 of History's Greatest Idiots, the show where we go back through all of human history and bring you examples of absolute colossal stupidity and terrible mistakes so you can learn lessons from other people's errors and never repeat them again. But who are we kidding? We're humans. We like making mistakes, and sometimes we make them at the height of government. And it makes us all look quite stupid, but the ride is fun to watch. Joining me as ever is my amazing co-host and dear friend, Derek. Derek, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing now?
Yeah, I'm much better from last week. For those that don't know, we had to do kind of an improvised episode because I was severely ill. The most ill I've ever been. 24 solid hours of... I'm just going to say vomiting. Unfun. I'm just going to say vomiting. I was sick for 24 hours straight, every 20 minutes. It was horrific. I was going delirious at the end, but it was finally over, and I've taken a bunch of steps since then to recover, and hopefully it's not going to happen anywhere near as often because I have a bunch of little interventory in things I can take that will stop me from being sick.
Corks and plugs?
Sorry, what's that?
Corks and plugs?
Basically, yes. It will be coming out of my ears.
Okay.
No, I basically will be dosing myself. The second I get any warning shots, I will be dosing myself up. Toasterzoid, hello, welcome. The first message, holy fucking shit, what happened to you, Lev? So one of the reasons there is no facial hair anymore is because that started to smell of the sickness, because I've been so sick. Basically February was a month of illness for me, and I had to shave it all off because it didn't matter how much I cleaned my facial hair or washed it or made it smell nice with oils, I could still smell the stuff that had been happening around it. So we're starting again, hopefully with the improvements in not vomiting all the time and having that improve our lives. Before we continue, I would like to give a big shout out to our wonderful, amazing patrons who have stuck with us through thick, thin, and vomit. Jesse Christ, Kimberly Johnson, Andrew Zavara, Dilly Bob, Silent Crisis, Carrion, Suzanne, and of course the one and only Toasterzoid, who's joined us live. Thank you all so much for being such wonderful, supportive human beings. If you would like to join our wonderful patrons and get access to exclusive behind the scenes recordings and exclusive gifts, annual gifts when you stay with us as well, you will also get access to scripts and photos from our lives where we go to historic locations as well, and also interact with our little community. You can go to patreon.com/history's greatest idiots, and also you get sometimes money off merchandise that we create, and we're in the process of maybe considering designing a few t-shirts.
Yeah,
so
that'll be cool.
That'll be amazing.
I've got some dumb ideas for that.
I can't wait to hear them. I've got one idea tied down, but we're open to a bunch more. We're going to work with hopefully work with a designer who I've known for a while. She's amazing. And, she is someone who is in a position with me in terms of her health. So we've been having conversations about, doesn't it suck being unwell all the time? She's like, yeah, I hate having a disability. So we were just talking. I was like, why don't we work together? Why don't we just do a bit of profit sharing? Why don't we enrich each other? Let's raise all the ships. And
There
she
you
was like,
go.
yeah, I like that idea. And it's a distraction from being unwell. So if you can help people in your life and maybe help them make a bit of money while they're being at their lowest ebb, you should absolutely do it. So go and join our patrons. They will get patrons will get a percentage off of our merchandise, which I will set. It'll probably be a decent chunk. Want to save y'all some good money. And also, if you want to follow us over on the gram and get a load of our dank memes that do really, really well, go to History's Greatest Idiots over on Instagram, and you can see us make fun of just everyone. And now I've kind of got the Fox News social media post template. I've recreated it. I've boiled it down to source, and I've rebuilt it with the layers, and now I basically have a carbon copy of how Fox News posts their social media stuff. So it looks surprisingly authentic. Same thing with BBC. So you can basically rip off and pretend to be any news agency in the world and trick people into thinking the memes are real.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm gonna get us into trouble. As long as Roger Ayres doesn't come after me, we're fine. So you've obviously, Derek, you filled in so well last week, and the way you did it was so wonderful. I want to thank you for doing that. It was, man, that was a really horrible weekend, but you did a really, really good job. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Like I was just I had the day off of work. I took a few days off this last week, and I wasn't sick, so I figured I would step it up and try to show how much I appreciate the work that you put into it by actually doing something.
You do a good job. Don't be so harsh on yourself. But no, it was wonderful. And I actually, it's funny because I listen to a bunch of podcasts for my job, and just in general, you know, it's especially if I've got a long drive ahead of me, I do like to put on like a podcast or something like that. And a bunch of people do like greatest hits episode. They're like, hey, you know, we've got to go away on holiday, or we've got this, or so and so's unwell, or it's this holiday thing. We don't really do that. That's like only the second time I think we've done like a greatest hits type episode. So
it's not very often.
Yeah, we're troopers. Yeah, we solidly worked out. There's like over 100 episodes of original content on our show, plus a bunch of bonus shit. So
yeah, it's like a type of show that people would want to pick up on a place.
Yeah.
Sorry.
it's the kind of show where I feel like sponsors should be wanting to sponsor us, but I'm working on that too. Anyway, so this episode is actually a script I wrote the weekend I was really sick. Like the day before I was writing it, I think I told you as I wrote it, I was getting progressively sick as I wrote this script.
Right. You poured yourself into it, and then you poured yourself out into the throne.
Yeah, I poured myself into it, and then I was like, we should record the Patreon exclusive recording, which I did. So, by the way, if you go over to the Patreon, you can watch me literally 5 minutes before I start my 24-hour vomiting marathon. And literally, Derek turns to me at the end of the video, and I think I maybe just shot you a look, and you were like, do we need to end now? And I'm like, yeah, we need to end now.
Yeah.
You got a good half-hour recording in there. Anyway, so this one, and I need to give big credit for this article to a website called Vocal, who wrote almost all of the article that I'm about to quote. I filled in some of the stuff. I also got a few bits from some other sources as well, mostly like general sources. But this Vocal article was an excellent source. If you go check out vocal.media/criminal/Canadian/counterfeiter, you can find the article I'm talking about. And this is Wesley Weber, Canada's most interesting counterfeiter/forger. So
he starts off with an interesting rhymey name.
He does, and it gets even more interesting. Actually, he could have been created by Stan Lee. It's that many W's. So in the late 90s, Windsor, Ontario, a quiet Canadian town nestled along the border with the United States, experienced an unexpected and unprecedented financial upheaval. Counterfeit $100 bills, so flawless in their execution that they easily bypassed even the most advanced counterfeit detection measures, began flooding the local economy. These fake notes were not just convincing, they were perfect. They posed an exceptional challenge to the authorities and had the potential to disrupt the nation's economy. That's how many there were. They were fucking up the economy.
Oh,
yeah. The counterfeit operation would go down. It would go down in history as one of Canada's most audacious and notorious financial crimes. At the heart of all of it was a high school student named Wesley Weber. Yes, a high school student, although just recently graduated. I know. A young man with an unassuming exterior but an extraordinary talent for forgery. This is the story of how Wesley Weber nearly crippled Canada's economy with his counterfeit operation and how he managed to outsmart the authorities. If this wasn't worth a short montage to some fun jazz music, like as an intro, I don't know what is. Sorry, I'm just going to take a slurp to clear my throat right now. But I just want to start off. Wesley Wayne Weber is his full name.
Wesley Wayne Weber, the Canadian forger who's got more than a couple of duffel bags of fake $100 bills that he's spreading around. He's a high school student doing this.
And I just want to start this out. Let's imagine that you've skipped over the hard part of becoming a master forger, a master counterfeiter, right?
Okay.
You've taken all of this time to do that. I feel like most people, when they realize that they had access to a perfect fake amount of money, they would go as fucking crazy as this guy did. And I do mean completely insane. Like, he had no discretion at all. You know, like that scene in Goodfellas when like they all start showing up at the bar after the heist. And like, he's like, what are you doing? Why is your wife wearing a fur coat? We were supposed to keep it on the low, keep it on the down low. And he gets them to leave. And the guy shows up in a fucking car, a brand new car. He's like, oh, it's under my mother's name. He's like, no, what the fuck is wrong with you? This guy didn't even care. He was just like flashing the cash around while he posed as having a media company. So Wesley Wayne Weber was born in 1974 in River Canard, just south of Windsor, Ontario. However, he grew up in Amhertsburg, a slightly larger town about 7 miles away from where he was born. Growing up, he enjoyed a relatively normal childhood raised by supportive and nurturing parents who encouraged his academic pursuits. Wesley displayed an early affinity for computers, so much so that during his high school years, he actually considered himself a computer nerd. Like, he was like, no, I am a computer nerd. This is who I am. This is just me. I don't have any problem with you calling me that because that's who I am. This is a fascination that would later play a crucial role in his life's unexpected trajectory. So far, so quaint. Could be an episode of Gilmore Girls. So far,
yeah, just like a happy life, computer nerd, chill dude.
Just taking it easy, enjoying the world around him in beautiful Windsor, Ontario. You know, just enjoying the nice part of the world, bit into computers, but it's all about to turn. As a teenager, Wesley's introverted nature made it a challenge for him to connect with his peers. He often found solace in his computer, which became his closest companion. This fascination led to him experimenting with and forging paper money, something he'd semi-mastered by the age of 13.
So he's doing it on a computer?
He's doing it with an HP inkjet. Yeah.
Okay.
This 13-year-old kid's got one of those printers, and he's forging like the most convincing money you've ever seen in your life. In a world of algorithms and code, Wesley discovered a sense of purpose and accomplishment. However, this immersion into the digital realm also made him somewhat of an outcast in the eyes of his more socially adept classmates. In an effort to break free from the confines of his introverted persona and gain acceptance among his peers, Wesley embarked on a daring adventure. Did they go and liberate a shiny gem from the grips of a dragon that lived in a mountain? Nope. They decided to break into the school. So yeah, he was going to become a burglar. Not a million miles away from the Hobbit, but I'm pretty certain Bilbo wasn't doing that for clout, which is basically what Wesley was doing. He, along with a friend, orchestrated a break-in at their high school. Clad in black attire, equipped with an assortment of burglary tools, they descended upon the school under the cover of darkness. If this had been over the fucking water, he'd have been shot. if this had been in America, if he'd been breaking into, I feel like someone would have shot at him, but it's Canada. Anyway, their mission
I'm
was
watching it as a cartoon. They're like cat burglars sneaking with the rope over their shoulder,
doing the
grappling
Batman
hook.
thing up the wall.
Yeah.
It's basically that. Their mission was to pilfer equipment, a heist that would not only provide a brilliant thrill, but also elevate their social status. To Wesley's astonishment, their audacious burglary quickly gained notoriety. Local newspapers reported that professional burglars from Detroit, which God knows where they got that information from, had targeted the school, making off with equipment worth a staggering $270,000. He hadn't realized how much the equipment was worth.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that's a serious crime, dude.
Oopsie.
Oh, dear. It was an ironic twist of fate. Wesley's quest for acceptance led him down a path he could never have foreseen. The notoriety surrounding the break-in transformed Wesley's social status overnight. Suddenly, he was the talk of the school, and his newfound popularity brought him the acceptance he longed for. Basically, rumors started that he'd done it, but it could never be proven. So Wesley's the king of stealing shit. However, it also drew the attention of law enforcement, and soon the young computer whiz found himself facing the consequences of his actions. "You're so cool," Wesley says his dream goes. He's carted off to jail, looking at up to 2 years in prison. Despite the legal troubles that stemmed from the school break-in, Wesley's fascination with computers seemed to persist. He continued to explore the digital realm, honing his skills and expanding his knowledge. It was during this time that he became acquainted with Anthony Cabarel, Dustin Cossum, and Ryan Hudere. Sorry, that's just such a cool name. Individuals whose lives revolved around a very different world, one filled with criminal activities and illicit adventures. Again, not the jolly, quaint adventures, the more kind of steal shit and live the high life sort of adventure, banditry, basically. Yeah. Those aren't adventures. That's larceny.
Yeah, I mean, they're criminal adventures, I suppose.
I guess so, and also it's very typically Canadian of putting that spin on. These rogues, going out, taking things, living the high life. No, they stole $250,000 worth of stuff from school. So that's not so good. He got away with that, by the way. They could never prove he was arrested. I don't think he got any jail time for that. I couldn't find any information about that. But
so then allegedly he broke into the school.
Allegedly. Although he seems to have basically gone, yeah, it was me. But you never seen that shit again. His proficiency in graphic software allowed him to create counterfeit checks that were nearly indistinguishable from genuine ones. This is after he's already started to counterfeit a little bit of cash here and there. The first check he counterfeited was a City of Windsor welfare check. It was a pivotal moment in Wesley's criminal evolution. The success of his endeavor, combined with the financial gain it promised, enticed him to explore more illicit activities. Jumps free check forgery to human trafficking. No, I'm joking. Didn't do any. He's not the Canadian Scarface or anything like that. He just wrote a couple of bad checks. Okay. The world of counterfeiting beckoned, and Wesley Weber was ready to answer the call. Wesley's friends, impressed by his counterfeiting skills, eagerly joined him in the new venture. Anthony Cabarel, Dustin Cossum, and Ryan Hudere saw an opportunity for a quick financial gain and willingly embraced the criminal path alongside him. They began cashing checks at various businesses in Windsor, pocketing the genuine money they received as change. It was a profitable endeavor, but Wesley had even grander ambitions. In 1997, he was sentenced to 3 months for forgery for several dodgy banknotes. So he got caught one time for the banknotes. After that, he spent weeks tinkering with scanned copies of banknotes to perfect the simulated images and security features using techniques he found on websites. Back then, the web was the Wild West, and you could find instructions on criminal behavior just open on the internet to anyone.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is when?
1997.
1997. Yeah, because this is totally when you could go into a chat room and find yourself wandering down different links onto some slowly loading version of the Anarchist Cookbook.
Yeah,
which you absolutely could. Interesting things.
Yeah,
I mean, I've never seen that before in
No,
my life.
we have not been to the open library on Minecraft that has every banned book on the internet. No. So no, this isn't how it's very difficult because the evolution of the internet has been a slow thing. But back in the day, you could very easily find links to basically any dodgy market or sale. Like sale of drugs now is still quite prevalent on the internet, but back then it was still quite prevalent. Downloading illegal films, all sorts of like dangerous activities and groups had like hubs. There were a bunch of terrorists on the early internet, like
Really?
racist groups. Oh yeah, in the UK it was a big problem. They were some of the early adopters of the internet, and they'd have hubs where people would get together and talk. It was really dangerous, and you know, the authorities weren't monitoring them, and they were organizing, and yeah, so that was the chrysalis of that. And you could find that like it very quickly. So this idea that people can find dangerous stuff on the internet in 2 clicks, that's always been the case. It was just way less regulated back then. Anyway, Wesley used editing software that allowed him to enlarge the image of the banknotes up to 1,000 times. He printed more than $7.7 million in fake banknotes using little more than his HP DeskJet printer.
How? But I don't like. How do you get that security thing that you can only see at certain angles and shit?
Well, he actually gets into that later on. Initially, now he floods the market with like not the greatest forgeries ever, but this time he's got the basics down. So if you hand it over, it's the kind of thing. And if you've ever worked in retail or if you've worked in a store, and I've had this, people will hand you something and you don't necessarily pay too much attention to it because you're busy and your stuff, and then you look back later on, and you're like, that's a fake. Like you see it. You know, you pay a little bit more attention to it and you realize it's a fake. He's at that stage where like he's handing over money in busy shops and people aren't paying too much attention, but eventually it like catches up. He's not quite at the stage of being probably the greatest forger of cash of the 20th century, of the 21st century just yet, but he's getting there. This little run of fortune was interrupted thanks to his side hustles as a weed farmer.
Okay. All right.
This guy is multiple businesses, little entrepreneur over here. In April 1999, he got arrested for exploiting a grow op in the basement of his home in Windsor. Somehow, he didn't go to prison for that. I guess Canada's not quite so strict on drug enforcement laws, but yeah, he had a little lab down in his basement and he didn't go to prison for it. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Canada is like as far as their weed laws in the 90s. I don't know that they were on like the war on drugs the way we were here in the States through the 80s and 90s and whatnot. I know a lot of really good weed came from Canada in the 90s.
Notoriously good weed. And also, you know, it's a basement. How serious of an operation was this? You know, this wasn't, they call it, you know, it says here a weed farmer. Really, how much money could he possibly make from this in his basement? Hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. I guess they're like, he's a kid, he screwed up, he's done the forgery thing, now he's a weed farmer, maybe he'll grow out of it. Maybe they should have paid a little bit more attention. Anyway, he's farming weed, he's forging checks and cash, but it's only kind of on the periphery at the moment. The mere thought of creating Wesley Weber's audacious journey into the world of counterfeiting took a dramatic turn when he set his sights on a much more coveted target, the elusive counterfeit $100 bill. The mere thought of creating a near-perfect counterfeit of Canada's most secure currency became an obsession for him. It wasn't about the money, it was about the challenge, but it was also about the money. It was almost probably about the money. Because why else would it be? The challenge. Oh, it's such a challenge. Like, yes, but it's also cool having a shitload of money that you've printed. Canada, a pioneer in anti-counterfeiting measures, had developed one of the most secure currencies globally. Its $100 note featured a multitude of security features that deterred even the most sophisticated counterfeiters. These included raised ink printing, intricate micro printing, a color-shifting foil applique known as the optical security device, and embedded fluorescent threads, among others. So there's multiple layers to the security of this $100 bill. Despite the immense challenge ahead, Wesley was determined to crack the code and produce counterfeit $100 bills that were not only convincing, but also undetectable. He realized that achieving perfection required not only technical skills, but also an in-depth knowledge of every other aspect of the bill's design. Wesley embarked on an intensive learning journey, studying the intricate details of genuine $100 bills. He meticulously examined the security features, scrutinized the fonts used for serial numbers, and immersed himself in the world of engraving. He knew that replicating these details would be the key to success. Week after week, month after month, Wesley painstakingly manipulated images, adjusting attributes such as sharpness, brightness, color, and saturation. He experimented relentlessly, pushing the boundaries of digital manipulation to create templates for both the front and the back of the counterfeit $100 bill. Every security feature presented a unique challenge. For instance, the optical security device, resembling a shiny chocolate bar wrapper, was particularly complex to replicate. Just take it off chocolate bars and glue it on, mate. Knocking Charlie over from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and just taking his golden ticket. But no, this is really impressive. And I feel like this is what separates successful criminals from the guys that just aren't very good at what they do. This guy put in a lot of research and time and effort.
Like, he was basically making, because you're saying he took engraving and stuff. Was he making plates?
Yes, he did. He made machines.
Yeah, so he's basically making real money. He's just doing it cheaper than the government.
He is. That's effectively what we're talking about here. He's made himself his own mint. And I genuinely don't have a problem with that, especially as like paper money is no longer tied to the gold standard. And it's becoming less and less real and valuable as like kind of paperless societies take off and cryptocurrency sort of invades. But like, I genuinely like the effort he's putting in here, but he's also realizing that all of this effort and stuff, he needs a cover, he needs a front for what he's doing, because he's about to do a bunch of research, and like, you can't have just some random dude calling up and going, hey, tell me about money printing. How do you print that money? Like, that's the kind of thing that sets off alarm bells in some quiet somewhere, you know. So Wesley's determination led him to engage with suppliers and producers under the guise of being the CEO of a non-existent company called Pro Custom Graphics. So it's like an amorphous kind of graphic company. What do you make? Oh, we make all sorts of custom print stuff. Like, what specifically? Like that kind of business where it's like, it's not clear what you do, and that's probably for the best. He sought access to the specialized materials used in the printing business, gradually obtaining the components necessary to recreate the optical security device. As Wesley's knowledge grew, so did his ability to overcome obstacles. When gold foil proved too challenging to apply, he ventured into art stores, searching for alternatives. His persistence paid off when he stumbled upon a unique paint that could mimic the color shifting feature of the optical security device. It was a breakthrough that left his associates in awe. Maybe Bob Ross was a forger.
Was it, you think?
Yeah.
Happy little
$100 bill. Happy little friend over here. Everyone needs a little happy $100 bill. With the necessary materials and knowledge at his disposal, Wesley Weber had made significant strides towards creating a perfect counterfeit $100 bill. Yet he knew that one critical hurdle remained: the paper itself. Counterfeiting $100 bills was a multifaceted challenge, and one of the most formidable obstacles was replicating the paper used in genuine banknotes. Authentic Canadian currency was printed on non-fluorescent paper, a cotton linen blend specifically designed to resist UV light. It was a level of detail that demonstrated Canada's commitment to security. They also smelled of maple syrup because, it's just clumsy in the process.
Yeah.
Determined to match this level of sophistication, Wesley embarked on a quest to find the paper that not only mimicked the texture, but also lacked the telltale UV response that betrayed counterfeit bills when placed under ultraviolet light. His search led him to an unexpected source, a Toronto paper manufacturer. I've got to be honest with you. I don't think a paper manufacturer in the company that you're trying to forge money from is that unexpected of a source. To be honest, that should be the first fucking place you look.
Yeah. Well, like it would have been really unexpected if he would have gotten it, like, say, from waste management.
Yeah, or like a Cambodian fucking like paper company or something like that. But no, it's his back door. Like it's down the fucking road, basically.
Yeah. Well, he got it from the Toronto paper money company.
Money paper company. He drops his niece off at daycare or whatever, and they're using paper to like they're making finger paintings on paper, and oh my god, it's perfect for counterfeiting. Like, it wasn't like that. He went to a professional company. I don't feel like that's the kind of thing where you call up the company, you use a fake accent, and you ask basic questions. That should be question number one, really. You should be calling every Canadian company, because chances are they're going to keep it local, and keep the costs down of producing this shit. So,
yeah, I'm really interested to find out, how do I get me some of that money paper?
Hey, that cool paper that you make money with? You wouldn't believe this. It was fucking easier than that. Like, it is. They were fine with it. This whole conversation. Canadians are so trusting. Walking into the paper manufacturer's office, Wesley explained his dilemma. He claimed that he needed the paper that wouldn't fluoresce under UV light because he printed advertisements with fluorescent lettering. The ruse was an ingenious way to secure the crucial non-fluorescent paper required for the counterfeit operation. The paper manufacturer suggested a type of paper known as archival quality paper. It was acid-free and used for office documents, wills, testaments, and interestingly, banknotes. So they've just said, yeah, here's the paper we used to make money with. Knock yourself out.
They told him?
They told him it was used to make banknotes. I feel like someone's going to be paying these people a visit shortly after this. Don't tell people that.
I feel like that's part of the contract of being one of the people that gets chosen to make the money paper.
Yeah. Don't tell people. It's fucking Fight Club rules. It's really simple. But also, like, I love that he just walks in there and is like, yeah, I'm making these cool adverts, right? They can't show up under UV light because we're using UV lettering. And then someone in there was going, who the fuck is going to see that advert? Who is going to care about that? Everyone's like, oh, that's innovative, young man. Yeah, let's give you here bank money. So anyway, right. I really hope he didn't scour the earth looking for this, because these people just like gave it to him on a plate. It was that simple. Wesley purchased a batch of archival quality paper, a critical step forward in his quest for perfection. With the right paper, the convincing texture, and UV resistance, he was one step closer to realizing his audacious plan. Wesley Weber's progress in counterfeiting was impressive, but he also understood the value of collaboration. To expedite his operation and diversify his skill set, he enlisted the help of his criminal associates. Each member of the team played a crucial role in the counterfeiting process. Dustin was tasked with applying the optical security device, a role that required precision and attention to detail. Ryan, on the other hand, was responsible for applying a clear coat to the counterfeit bills, sealing the ink and enhancing their authenticity. Anthony contributed his expertise by doling out foot massages. No, he actually oversaw the whole operation. He oversaw the whole thing. Together, they formed a formidable team, a megazord of forgers, if you will, working in synchronicity to produce counterfeit $100 bills that would eventually become the bane of Canadian authorities. That and having to shoo moose away from their trucks first thing in the morning and then de-icing. I'd imagine that's the bane of their existence, really. The cold climate.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
them moose.
Mind their own.
Dude, and them flying squirrels that are always hanging out with the moose up there.
Right, I know. So crazy. With all the necessary components in place, Wesley Weber and his team initiated the production phase of their counterfeit operation. They painstakingly crafted templates for both the front and the back of the $100 bill, ensuring that every minute every minute detail was replicated with precision. The process was not as simple as copying a bill using a standard scanner and printer. Counterfeiting a $100 bill was a complex feat of engineering that required extensive digital manipulation. The team worked tirelessly, refining their techniques over the course of several months. The bills needed to pass scrutiny at every level, from casual observer to advanced counterfeit detection methods. They meticulously adjusted the images, fine-tuning attributes such as sharpness, brightness, color, and saturation, as we mentioned before. The goal was to create a counterfeit bill that could withstand the closest scrutiny from the most intelligent people. Their efforts bore fruit when they finally produced a front and back template that closely resembled a genuine $100 bill. However, even this monumental achievement was not enough for Wesley. The bills needed to be absolutely perfect, without any flaws or irregularities. As the team delved deeper into the counterfeiting operation, they encountered the challenges posed by the optical security device, a critical feature of the $100 bill. The device resembled a foil that changed from gold to green when tilted. We've all seen that when you hold money. It changes with the light. It's very impressive, really.
Right. Yeah. All of their little things that they have on their money is really cool. But yeah, the color changing foil things are it. I don't know. It's all magic to me, man.
Yeah. And also, I doubt that there's like a foil company in Toronto somewhere that's going to be like, we put this on money. Yeah, have a look at this.
That couldn't happen twice.
Maybe.
What excuse would you have? Be like, I need this really neat foil because I have these advertisements that I make where we need the color to change, like on money.
We need to forge money. Heidi Klum has some crazy Halloween costume ideas this year, and I need all of the color-changing foil that you have. She's going as the creature from the Blue Lagoon. Okay, so from the Black Lagoon. So we need to, I feel like that's stupid enough to work, but apparently anything works up in Canada when you're asking the right questions. So undaunted, Wesley reached out to the foil producers, presenting himself as the CEO of Pro Custom Graphics. He inquired about acquiring foils for his imaginary company's graphic arts projects. His elaborate ruse granted him access to the foil materials necessary to imitate the thing. It just worked again. So we were just making fun of it.
Fucking does the money paper?
Yep. Same ruse. Advertising again. I think when people hear advertising, they're like, "Oh, this could be an ongoing thing. We could make a lot of money." Like, obviously, money, printing money is an ongoing thing, but they're always looking for other avenues where they're like, "Okay, this isn't going to be a one-off. This is going to be like a years-long project thing." So I think that's probably what won people over, is that if he's making advertising and it's completely unique, then he's going to corner the market. We're going to be known for it, stuff like that. So I can kind of see why they were seduced with this, but also like ask some basic security questions. This guy's company doesn't even exist. He doesn't even have an HQ.
Oh my goodness. And then, well, I mean, it's 97. You look it up on the internet?
Not really. You can't even like, because Canada's so fucking big, I feel like, and he's in a small town outside of Windsor.
Yellow pages?
I mean, yeah, they would have done, but I guess not everyone would pay to be in there.
That's true.
Like, I mean, if you think about your local, most of the window cleaners are
advertising company.
Yeah, well, no, that would be a bit of a giveaway, wouldn't it? An advertising company that isn't in the yellow pages, or in the white pages, like that's kind of fucking crazy that they're not in there. Also, like, yeah, there's a bunch of red flags here. Apparently, they didn't care. They just saw money and so did he. So they were just happy to hand it over.
Does anybody think it's strange you've never heard of this advertising company before? They must be fucking great at their job.
Yeah, why aren't they being hired by everyone? We've literally never heard of them before. However, it gets weirder. Replicating the feature proved to be a Herculean task. The foil had unique properties that made it challenging to reproduce. It took Wesley Weber's unwavering dedication and ingenuity to find a solution. Meanwhile, his associates marveled at how he was so resourceful. Wesley's ability to navigate the worlds of legitimate and illegitimate business, coupled with his commitment to perfection, set him apart as the mastermind of their operation. Yet, even as they admired his skills, they couldn't help but question the risk and consequences of their actions. A little bit late, boys. As the team contributed to refine their counterfeit techniques, they realized the staggering potential of the profit. The allure of easy money began to overshadow any concerns about the consequences of their action. Greed took hold, driving them to produce counterfeit bills on an unprecedented scale. The operation had transformed from a small-scale endeavor into a fully fledged production line. They upgraded their equipment and invested in advanced software to enhance efficiency. A hydraulic laser paper cutter allowed them to produce $100,000 worth of counterfeit bills in a single run.
Damn.
Yeah, I think a single run is like an hour.
Oh, so damn.
That's a lot of money. They just need the materials and they can knock millions out in a day. To further enhance the authenticity of their counterfeit bills, they devised a clever strategy. They placed the counterfeit bills in a dryer with clay poker chips. This isn't that ingenious.
I feel like I've seen that in a movie.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that in every fucking movie.
Yeah.
You know, laundering your money literally is not a genius thing. Simulating the wear and tear of genuine bills experiences circulation. The bills will tumble for approximately 11 minutes, emerging with a worn and torn exterior that made the appearance genuine. Money laundering advice. Yeah, that's kind of pretty straightforward, really. The results were astonishing. The counterfeit bills passed every test with flying colors. They looked, felt, and even aged like authentic currency. The team couldn't contain their excitement, and the allure of limitless wealth clouded their judgment. I mean, at this point, they're producing real money, right?
Yeah.
Other than it's just not backed by the government.
Right. They're just a fucking independent mint.
Yeah, I know. They're artisan forgers. Artisanal. They put on they drive to work in the morning, they heat everything up, and then they produce several $1 million in a day. As the counterfeiting operation expanded, so did the audacity of their actions. Wesley Weber, Anthony Cabarel, Dustin Cossum, and Ryan Hedare were living extravagant lifestyles fueled by the proceeds of the illicit activities. They reveled in their newfound wealth, indulging in luxury cars, designer clothing, and lavish purchases. Wesley, in particular, embraced a lifestyle of excess. He spent hours shopping, often staying awake for 20 hours a day, fueled by the thrill of his newfound affluence.
And cocaine.
Yes. Not the weed that he's got in his basement, probably other substances as well. But also, like, how much time can you spend on Amazon? That's a lot of shopping. 20 hours a day.
My goodness. There's not that much cool shit on there, especially not in the 90s.
Books. I know. Just like, okay, maybe spend a day, like a working day shopping, but that's like all you'd need for a month. Right, like you buy a couple of sports cars, you buy a house. You like, how much fucking time do you need to spend anyway? Luxury cars became his passion, and he couldn't resist the allure of the top of the line Mustang Cobra, which
way cooler. I thought he was going for a Ferrari or some shit. He goes for a Mustang Cobra. It's impressive.
Yeah, I think the Mustang holds like a special place in a lot of people's hearts because it's very much tied with the American. It's very Americana, isn't it? The Ford Mustang. So Mustang Cobra, he customized it with high-end modifications, transforming it into a symbol of his success. If you have unlimited money, you spend nearly a day shopping, you'd think you'd just chill the fuck out after a while, but no, he kept on going. With the ever-increasing extravagance, the team's recklessness grew in parallel. Their lack of discretion ultimately led to their undoing. In a careless moment, Wesley attempted to purchase rims for his Mustang using counterfeit money. He was getting high on his own supply instead of putting it in the bank. The dealer suspected foul play. He examined the bills more closely and discovered that several of them had identical serial numbers.
Oops.
Basic shit. That.
Damn.
Yeah. This glaring mistake set the wheels of justice in motion. The dealer promptly reported the counterfeit bills to the authorities, unaware that he had just ignited an investigation that would shake the foundations of Canada's criminal underworld. The discovery of the counterfeit bills with identical serial numbers set off alarm bells with law enforcement agencies. An investigation was launched, and Wesley Weber quickly became a person of interest. Although he had managed to elude authorities for a considerable amount of time, his careless mistake had exposed his critical vulnerability in the operation. To gather evidence against Wesley and his associates, law enforcement agencies employed a variety of tactics. They began surveilling the counterfeit crew, tracking their movements 24 hours a day. The team's awareness of being constantly watched led to erratic behavior, including reckless driving, spontaneous U-turns, and evasive maneuvers in an attempt to shake off the pursuers. Nothing suspicious here, officer, just reenacting Too Fast, Too Furious. It's like we've got a bunch of hot DVD players, so we've got to get away.
Yeah. Nothing more suspicious than trying to lose a tail.
Nothing more suspicious than, again, going back to Goodfellas, when like him and his wife are blasted on cocaine, just like driving around making all the things like, it's the fucking helicopter watching us, and they're just like blitz, sweating like crazy, driving like lunatics. That screams guilt.
Totally inconspicuous.
Yeah, I'm fine in my Mustang, of all things. Aware of the increased scrutiny, Wesley and his associates changed cell phone numbers regularly to evade electronic surveillance. They were determined to avoid capture at all costs. Wesley, in particular, harbored a deep fear of returning to jail, an experience that had left an indelible mark on him, because he was there for 3 months for a very basic forgery charge. Despite the mounting pressure and the ever-present threat of arrest, the fence, who had facilitated their counterfeit operation, continued to place large orders, which could only have stressed them out more. Each request pushed Wesley and his team to their limits. They worked tirelessly, relentlessly printing counterfeit bills to make the escalating demands. The operation had spiraled out of control, with the team printing and distributing millions of dollars in counterfeit currency every week.
Oof.
Yeah. They felt invincible, convinced that they had outsmarted the authorities. However, their arrogance and complacency would prove to be their downfall. The mounting evidence against Wesley Weber and his crew left law enforcement with no choice but to launch a full-scale operation to dismantle their counterfeiting empire. After weeks of surveillance and painstaking investigation, the authorities had gathered enough information to execute a sting operation. The timing was critical, as the team was in the midst of their counterfeiting operation. Counterfeit $100 bills were pouring out of the printers at an alarming rate, and the illicit empire was on the verge of expanding further. This was the moment to strike for the Canadian authorities. Armed with search warrants and ample evidence, law enforcement agencies converged on the location where the counterfeiting operation was underway. They had meticulously observed every aspect of the operation, from the printing process to the final product. The sight that greeted the officers was staggering. Counterfeit $100 bills lay strewn across the tables and equipment. It was clear that the operation was in full swing, with over $250,000 in counterfeit currency just in plain view, just lying around. Yeah,
just kicking it. $250,000 just hanging out.
Yeah, just on the sink. Some next to the sandwiches for lunch. 5 minutes later, they took the $50,000 they'd found laying in plain sight before quickly running to their cars and remembering that they left the stove on. There's Canadian police officers. The surprise raid caught the counterfeiters off guard, with two individuals still having gold paint on their hands from their work. Oh dear!
Pictures from the raid.
It's just, inconspicuous Canadian Mounties just rolling up. Yeah. Hey, boys, we got new saddles coming our way, eh?
Yeah,
God.
sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing some Mountie action. I feel like the gold thing, like it's really like gold leaf on, that's your excuse. Like it's like gold leaf on my steak. Just like, can't a man have a little luxury? Get off my back. That's your way out of that one. The satisfaction of catching the culprits red-handed was palpable amongst the law enforcement officers. They had invested significant time and effort into dismantling the counterfeit operation, and their hard work had finally paid off. By November 2001, over 40,000 fake bills had been detected and taken out of circulation. They're $100 bills each, so that's a fair old chunk of money.
Yeah, it is.
Wesley Weber and his crew were now in custody, facing the consequences of their audacious criminal endeavors. The arrest of Wesley Weber and his associates marked the end of one of Canada's most audacious counterfeiting operations. Authorities seized over $250,000 in counterfeit $100 bills on the day, along with equipment and materials needed to produce something like $500 million in the last few months. Nearly $500 million.
Oh,
Canadian.
goodness.
Canadian, so that's like what, $13 US. Not quite. The illicit operation had saturated the market with counterfeit currency, causing significant financial losses to businesses and challenging the integrity of Canada's currency, that famously valuable currency of theirs. As the legal proceedings unfolded, each member of the counterfeiting crew faced their day in court. Ryan Hedare, Dustin Cossum, and Anthony Cabarel were each sentenced to 2 years in prison for their involvement in the operations. I feel like that's pretty light for
it. It is, but 2 years is a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot of money, but they didn't steal any. I mean, I guess technically you're stealing by giving people fake money for their good. You're stealing from your fellow citizens and businesses and stuff. That's I guess true. Then.
But the thing is, if the money is so convincing that it's basically real money, then once it gets so far down the chain that really everyone's stolen from everyone. So like, that guy, he's put it in the bank. The bank is so convinced it's real, they've handed out to real people who've like handed over $100 for, I don't know, let's say a really nice steak dinner they've taken their family to or whatever. And then, the restaurant sent that back to the bank. And, like at a certain point, a bunch of people have lost money to it, and it's probably as good as real money anyway. So,
I mean, it's all make believe.
It is. None of it's real. So that's why they only got 2 years, because it wasn't real.
Oh, boy.
Their sentences reflected their roles in the counterfeiting enterprise and their cooperation with law enforcement. That's not good. Did they get to keep all their old shit, do you think? The cars and stuff? Or does Canada have proceeds of crime?
I mean, I feel like they should have gotten a contract to be like an independent mint.
Yeah. Like you solve your issue there. And this happens with hackers all the time. They end up working for the government. So just let these people do their thing, just make them legit.
Like, were they making the money cheaper than what they were paying to have the money made? Like, because I mean, so. It's free market, right?
Exactly. And
these
also
guys to make it.
Yeah, and they weren't paying themselves 401ks or anything like that. They're just like, I'll buy my retirement. Anyway, Wesley Weber, the mastermind behind the audacious counterfeiting operation, faced a more substantial sentence. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, a testament to the scale of the operation, his role as the driving force behind it. He was arrested and convicted. His arrest and conviction sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld, serving as a stark warning to those who would dare to replicate his audacious feats. Better get back to shooting pro wrestlers for smuggling cigarettes, their Canadian mafia. During his jail term, Weber learned market trading, and after his release, founded the consulting firm Goldbridge Financial Inc., which provided financial services without registration. I've decided to stop stealing money and go into trading stocks. Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, he's a genius, so why not? If he can turn his mind to something else and make money legitimately, then why not? As much as stocks are legitimate. Weber and his wife Michelle Kam co-founded the digital currency startup company Encryptix, which provides a platform for trading and storing digital cryptocurrencies. So, like a million other blockchain market, like we own the market, we'll get money no matter what, sort of thing. In 2010, Weber was arrested yet again for planting marijuana in another farmer's field.
Well, see, that's just a dick move. Did he ask?
Yeah. Hey, buddy, can I borrow half an acre? I've got this idea. So that year, he was sentenced to 18 months of house arrest. It's pretty decent. I wouldn't mind that at all. And 240 hours of community service. In September 2017, Weber used the alias Jeff Murray to speak in front of the city councillors at Toronto's Licensing and Standards Committee and gave his recommendations on how they should regulate cannabis establishments. In October 2018, the Cannabis Act legalized the use of marijuana for recreational purposes in Canada. Weber declared that he had helped finance a chain of cannabis stores named Cafe, all caps. And according to a CBC News investigation, he was one of its founders and main owners. So under an alias, he'd backed a bunch of cannabis places. It was fine. Totally legit business. I'm okay with that. So
he went from illegal weed to legal weed.
Yeah,
but he
possibly
did
a transition was very murky, but and he did it under an alias. But, yeah. His wife served as a director of the company that owns one of the properties used by Cafe. She was also the guarantor of a $1.7 million loan on the real estate. Weber used the alias Wesley Kam to try to get the company listed on the public exchange by issuing shares and receiving funds from investors. So he used a different name. In January 2019, Weber pleaded guilty to violating a 2011 trading ban from the Ontario Securities Commission for his activities in Encryptix. So more trouble. On the 29th of October 2019, he was sentenced for that offence to a prison term of 90 days, along with 2 years of probation, by Justice Malcolm McLeod of the Ontario Court of Justice. That's his fourth prison sentence at this point. All quite short, apart from the 5 years for counterfeiting. But, you know, he's very good at getting himself into trouble instead of doing, like, super legit things, really.
Right.
Anyway, Wesley Weber's name will forever be associated with one of the most significant counterfeiting operations in Canadian history. His meticulous attention to detail, technical expertise, and unrelenting pursuit of perfection had nearly crippled the nation's economy. In fact, his counterfeit $100 bills were so convincing that they were subject of a study at police colleges, serving as a benchmark for fraud and counterfeiting education. Wesley's story is a stark reminder of the combination of determination and intelligence that, when applied to criminal activity, can yield devastating consequences. His talents and skills have been had his talent and skills been channeled into a multitude of legitimate disciplines, he could have made even more money, but he chose the path of crime. His journey from an introverted computer nerd to a master counterfeiter serves as a cautionary tale about the allure of quick wealth and the perils of unchecked greed. So that's Wesley Wayne Weber of Windsor, Ontario, one of the most prolific and successful counterfeiters in human history, I think it's safe to say, because he pumped nearly $500 million worth of fake currency into the Canadian market, and people did not know until many years later when he tried to buy some rims for his car. So
that's so wild.
I know.
Okay, so if he's pumping all this fake money in there and it's doing all of this damage to the economy, how did nobody know?
I think when forgery is a really difficult thing to detect when it's that good. Mm-hmm. So I guess, like, I'm not big on financial stuff, but I guess they're looking at the amount of money that's coming back into banks and where it's coming from. I don't know. I can't even explain it.
I need somebody out there that is smart, economics smart, whatever. I need to figure out how no, I'm not doing anything illegal. But if he was doing all of this forging and stuff for all of this time and pumping all this money in there, and it was devastating to the economy, how did nobody know shit until one guy was like, hey, these serial numbers are the same on these rims or on these bills that he bought these rims with? Somebody should look into it.
And could you imagine, because obviously I think one of the reasons this failed is because the process of creating the perfect counterfeit bill was so long and meticulous that they were just like, I just want to spend it. I just want to spend it now. So when, after like years and years of preparing and then suddenly getting their hands on this perfect thing, they just went mad. Instead of being like, if they'd have been like, okay, we can spend tops $10,000 a week, no more than that. Anything more than that, it's going to get suspicious. So if they just maybe bought one car every 2 years and maybe like one lot of designer clothes every year and maybe one house every 5 years, something like that. If they'd just been a little bit more cautious, I genuinely believe that they could have strung out this counterfeiting operation until they retired and no one would have been any the wiser.
Yeah.
But they got sloppy. You know, they got so greedy that they didn't even check things like the fucking numbers were updated on the actual bills themselves.
Well, if you think about now, and I'm not condoning being shady or anything like that, but if you just think about how much that they had, if you just keep that around and slowly roll it out as if it were your paychecks,
who's going to know? And
God, this is terrible. Stop. Nope.
Don't do that. We're not endorsing this, but I think the allure of like this, the allure of greed and money and all of that, when really the freeing element of this crime for me, if you were to look at it as like freedom from the system, you know, whatever it is, you don't have to work, but you still have a very, very nice full-time income. So you can print your own money. That's the freedom it brings you. So just spend the money as anyone who has a very high-paying full-time job would. They don't go out buying, you know, fucking luxury cars every week and designer clothes. They're usually a little bit more responsible with their money. Yes, they'll have nice holidays. Yes, they'll buy houses. Yes, they'll look after their family and friends. But they are pretty careful with their money, all being told. So, you know, we're not talking like the ultra rich here. Let's say it's someone who's earning like $200,000 a year, who, you know, still pretty fucking rich, but you know, they're not billionaires. They've got a bunch of bills. They've maybe got a mortgage. They've got family to support, whatever it is. They're not going out blasting hundreds of thousands of dollars a week. They might have a crazy week where they spend $5,000. That's it. The rest of it's going on like mortgages and paying for food and, you know, the occasional meal out and stuff like that. If they had been so much easier with it, that's fine. Also, they didn't need to print that much money. You maybe do like, let's say you print for 6 months. I mean, obviously they got into the criminal underworld. That's why so much money was printed. But if they had just printed for themselves, they just did a 6-month run, printed enough money to last them an entire lifetime, and then stopped, they'd have got away with it for me.
Yeah, they would have had some lumpy mattresses, but they would have got away with it.
100%. You have a lockup, you keep some money in a few different places, and that's it. You just go back there, and so you got a few $1 million each, and that you're set. And I don't think anyone gets wise after that, because in the early days they were careful, they were cautious, but as time went on, they got sloppy, and that's what did them in. So, what's your opinion on Wesley Weber, this person?
I'm impressed. Like, just gosh, I'm disappointed that he's such a smart and intelligent idiot.
Yeah, he is.
That could have done such great things if applied to more productive pursuits.
Absolutely. I mean, the detail of graphics required to create convincing forgeries of money using an HP inkjet in the late 90s means that if he'd turn his vision to graphic design or art or something like that, he could have legitimately made a business that made a fair load of money for him and these people. He could have had employees. He could have been a visionary, and with his eye for perfectionism as well, he could have become like, he could have owned patents, he could have copyrighted a bunch of techniques that he could have made millions off of. So the thing is there, like, you look at someone who has an innovative eye, who is a perfectionist, and who has skills that they have honed over years of perfection. If he just focused on like a legit line and stuck to it, he would have eventually become very, very successful, and he wouldn't have had the interruption he would have eventually had. He could have made millions of dollars legitimately. It just would have required a bit more work. But I guess he was a rebellious spirit. I mean, we've seen that afterwards. Like, he kept like the weed farming and the crypto shit and the using his wife's name and stuff. And that's all neither here nor there. But ultimately, it has led him to this point where, you know, he is notorious now. But if you had to give him a score out of 100, it's a bit of a tricky one, this. What do you think?
Just because he kept getting caught strictly from impatience and greed, it's going to be a little bit higher. And because he could have done so much amazing things and made actually probably more money if he had just started the graphic design company that he said he had in the first place. He probably would have made all of that not maybe $500 million, but
no,
who knows?
A few million.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like these companies bought into the advertising premise because they're like, oh, that sounds innovative. At some point, he could have gone, yeah, why don't we do that as well?
Right.
Like,
side hustle to my criminal hustle. My main
and
criminal
the weed
hustle.
farm.
Yeah. And he just had too much going on to actually do the legit graphic design business is what it was. He was just too bogged down.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
No, but because of the impatience and the greed and the just waste of talent, I'm going to 86.
Nice. Okay. High score for Wesley Weber. Really interesting guy, Wesley Weber. I feel like that there are series that, I mean, there's a very clear message and lesson to learn from Wesley Weber, in that just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And actually, when you look at how quickly he was caught, because, you know, he only had a few years of counterfeiting. Yes, he pumped the market with it, but it wasn't, despite the level of sophistication, the government caught up with him eventually. So, you know, it was close to being one of the best counterfeit operations in history, but it only lasted a few years. So if he had the intelligence to pace himself, like as we just mentioned, he probably would have gotten a lot longer out of it. And actually, I feel like he wouldn't have had the sentence he had, because if you're like counterfeiting to, you know, not live extravagantly, I feel like the judge is like, you haven't done that much damage to the economy, really. You've done the damage of one family's worth instead of like an entire underworld's worth of money.
Right.
So yeah, he maybe gets like 90 days in prison for that, you know, as opposed to 5 years.
What's wild is somebody with a little baggie of crack probably gets the same 5-year sentence.
Exactly. That is really crazy. Financial crime, except unless you're someone like a Bernie Madoff or someone like that, it really doesn't get the weighting of criminality that like other crimes do, which I guess these are crimes that are viewed in society as like worse because we've been told they're worse. Like, you know, they're unpopular, they're seen as grotty, they're not as seen as somewhat exploitative. But actually, you know, if you examine the amount of damage that this could have done, like think about all of the people who lost money potentially through that. I mean, yes, okay, we've just talked about how at a certain point does it stop becoming dangerous because it goes through the system enough, but that wasn't real money. So the guy who sold him that car probably never saw that money again. So
yeah, he very well could have been like, nah, your rent is still due because the money you paid with is fake. And then
it is basically crayons. Like, why is the monopoly money in here? So yeah, it's one of those situations where, again, if he just focused down a really specific avenue, really innovative guy, really interesting ideas. He also sounds like, and this is an odd thing to say for someone who was supposedly a social introvert and a computer nerd who never talks to anyone, he sounds like he's really good at convincing people about his ideas. They seem to buy into them because they're good ideas, and he is dedicated to them. So if you can convince people that your interesting ideas are worth pursuing, then maybe they're actually worth pursuing. And the only person you really need to convince is yourself to go ahead and do them, right? So we all have a million good legitimate ideas throughout our lives, and I think at a certain point we start to doubt ourselves. We're like, oh, but that's not going to work. I shouldn't risk that. I should really be focusing on this. Occasionally it's okay to try these interesting legitimate ideas.
It is. That's my superpower, is finding how it won't work.
I think since I had my heart issues last year, I've just been like, fuck it, I'm just going to try. And building this website right now, it's been a bit of a journey, nearly a year, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least I tried. And I can say, in my 40s I tried this thing and it didn't work, but I gave it a shot.
Right. The only wrong answer is no answer, and the only real failure is not doing it at all.
Yeah. And I guess if you're listening to this and you're younger than us and you just think, well, you're in a different position, you're at a different point in your life, it's okay to start small. If you have an idea, start like on a smaller scale, maybe expand from there. Just spend a little bit of time doing it, like we've done with this podcast. We started this very, very small, and now we've grown to a certain point. We love doing it the whole way through. And sometimes it's just okay to plant that idea as a little seed and then just nurture it and stick with it. And eventually it will lead somewhere. And hey, even if it doesn't grow into a really successful, ultimately personally defining thing, you still got the joy of actually growing it and nurturing it and going on the journey with it. And sometimes that's its own reward. So just try, and don't be afraid of failing. Just don't put all of your money into it.
And don't put all of your effort into counterfeiting and illegal stuff. Try to make it a legit thing.
Try and make it a legit thing that's going to hold your interest for a long time. That's the way to find something that's going to work for you in your the rest of your life. If you're doing something that you love, and you're doing it carefully, and you're not burning out, just give it a shot. It's worth a go. Genuinely encouraging that. So that's the lesson from this, is that if Wesley Weber had just focused on doing the computer nerdy shit that he was really into, and maybe doing some of the graphic design stuff that he clearly had a flair for, he could have been a very popular and successful Canadian businessman. He was, but for different reasons. So that's the lesson for me, is that Wesley Weber had the opportunity to try something. He seems to have grown up in a very supportive household, so I'm sure his family and his parents would have been behind him, and he would have had that belief and support structure around him. But he chose to go the quick bucks route, which never really works out unless you're willing to sacrifice a lot of stuff like family and friends and your soul, and possibly time in prison for shit like that. So just try the stuff that is completely legit, and that you think, I think there's a market for this, or there's an opportunity here. Just give it a shot. It can't hurt, really.
Correct.
Yes. So that's our lesson. Don't counterfeit millions of Canadian dollars. Also, it's not worth it. Like, come on, Canadian dollars, for God's sake. Anyway, so that's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for coming back for episode 6. We're very sorry for the interruption in the usual schedule that was my illness. Hopefully it shouldn't happen too often, but if you'd like to support us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/historysgreatestidiots, where you can get access to behind the scenes footage from exclusive recordings, as well as scripts from previous episodes, footage from our lives, including pictures from when we go to historic locations, a really wonderful community of people. You'll get a gift when you join. You'll get an annual gift when you stay with us for a year or 2 years. And you get to contact us, because we're on there as well. And if you'd like to see our amazing posting on social media, please go to Instagram and look for History's Greatest Idiots. We post a bunch of really funny memes, usually when I'm unwell and in the bath and feeling creative, so I distract myself from the pain. So
that's fantastic with it.
I do, yeah. The pain is what drives my stupid brain to create silly memes. So I had a really fun time with this one. I'm at the moment, I'm in the mood for doing slightly more gentle stories about idiots, because I don't think we need punishing with sad stories at the moment in the world. There's enough sad shit out there, isn't there?
Yeah, this was fantastic. This is spot on, like an entertaining, interesting story about super relatable story. And yeah, I dug it, and I appreciate you bringing this.
I hope it was like a warm cup of cocoa to everyone out there who just needs a bit of a break from the crazy shit we're all living through. And that's all we ever really want, is to talk to you guys and bring you really interesting stories. So stay in touch. We'll be back again very soon with our next episode. But until then, Derek, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everyone.
And we'll see you all again very soon. Take care.